What's up, everybody? Matt McQueenie of the Mix Minus podcast here, and the big news over the last day or so has to do with a pop culture heavyweight and a technology heavyweight. Taylor Swift, the early 20s major rock star, really of the era, if there are many right now, she decided to pull her entire back catalog off of Spotify, the top player in the streaming music game, and really somebody who has been a disruptive start and an upstart in the game, changing really the paradigm of direct download music to one where you rent music in the cloud, basically. And then, for a fee, you can bring that music down into your phone, your mobile device, which is really more and more becoming the center of your technology universe and how you interact with the world. Everything happens on that phone, and through Bluetooth and through things like Apple CarPlay and Android in the car or Android Auto. These things can be really integrated into the experiences we've come to expect from our audio sources. And Spotify really is that kind of game changer. Now, the interesting thing with Spotify is everything you hear, they are not really profitable right now, and they're not profitable for themselves or for the music industry. They have 40 million users, 10 million of whom are paid subscribers. And with Spotify, you can get what you would term a freemium model, where you get pretty much the entire service on a desktop, or they've even moved that to tablets without paying. And in that case, you get advertisements, and you get real kind of you get a gate on your mobile use where you can only hit shuffle if you have it on the phone. Now, to take those constraints off, to not have advertisements, to have the ability to download it to your phone so you're not using your data, you pay $10 a month. If you want the no ads, and I don't think you can download on tablet or computer, you pay $5 a month. It's something that a lot of people do. It's the name of the game here with Spotify. They are the name in the game, and they do a real good job with it, and it's really ubiquitous with music streaming. I myself use Google Music All Access. I like the fact that you can carry over your previous library if you've which many of us have, if you've brought your library into iTunes at some time and quote unquote burned or ripped those discs into a digital library, then, for someone like me who has 6,000 to 7,000 songs and you don't really want to take a loss on those and just not think about them, keep them in your basement, it makes you have like a feeling of fulfillment that you were able to carry over this library into your digital library. And then you can add any music you want, a la Spotify, from the new albums that come out, or albums maybe that you don't have that you want to round out your collection with. Google Music also has a mood-based music platform, streaming music platform within it, after they bought the company Songza, which I talked about a few video casts ago. And it really has everything. For that, I'm paying $8 a month because I got in early, but that's another $10 a month streaming service. And really all these are about $10 a month, whether you're talking of RDO, Deezer who just bought the podcast platform, what am I thinking of here? Stitcher, which will be interesting to see how they integrate the entire audio experience. But one of the worrisome things here is that when you're paying $10 a month, which equates to $120 a year, obviously, if you times that by the 12 months, that's a lot of money to be spending to not get everything you want. iTunes has said, Apple has said, that through iTunes, the average user spends about $60 a year on digital downloads. So that would come out to about $5 a month. So if you're paying $120 a year and you're not getting everything, sort of like this Taylor Swift thing after she pulled. And by the way, Taylor Swift was not going to allow her new album to come on to Spotify anyway. She'll have a single here or there, or she'll have her back catalog, which is fine. But someone who can demand downloads and demand money and actually have people shell out the money, shell out that $10, or in her case, it was about $12 or $13 for that digital album download. That's someone who demands a lot of respect, and it's someone who, why not do that? You can realize more of the money. The artist and the label, I think, get about 70% of all the money through an iTunes download, and Apple gets the other 30%. I think that's the case with other digital download services like Amazon or Google or any of them, really, where even if they have streaming services, people like Taylor Swift, you still need to buy it. And actually, sometimes Amazon will have really good deals on albums where they'll do kind of a $5.99 right now for this album, or 99 cents. I remember I bought a Lady Gaga album one time because it was 99 cents. Why not? So they will do that. Apple usually doesn't do that. Apple usually sticks at about $9.99, or in the case of this Taylor Swift, about $12.99 or $12.49 or something like that. But Taylor Swift can demand that, and she'll do it. She's going to sell, I think, over 1 million records in her first week. So why would you go to Spotify, where you're getting less than a cent per play, per stream of your songs or your albums, the songs on those albums? Go in the game. You can do it. And there's a lot of talk that she was actually pulled from Spotify as kind of a sop to her record label, Big Machine. Big Machine is apparently trying to be bought right now, and so to have someone like Taylor Swift and selling 1 to 2 million albums, that's going to help your buying price probably. And so there's some talk about that. So maybe it's not quite the big canary in the coal mine about the whole industry that it's going to take it down, but there is something to the fact that Taylor Swift, Coldplay, Adele, different artists who are big enough names and can command full purchases of their albums, that they're coming off of that. And if they are doing that, it really makes you think twice about shelling out the money, the $10 a month for music, which many people think is too rich for their blood. And when you come into that doubt, and you start to have people dropping their subscriptions because they're a little worried that they're not going to be able to get the albums they want anyway, or if they're going to pay that $120 a year and then they still have to shell out $30 to $50 over the year on albums that are not a part of that, that's going to cause a lot of suspicion on the part of users, and it's going to really worry them. I think the answer is to do something like Netflix does, where you have the back catalog, you have the back movies, you have the back television shows, and there's an understanding from the user base that anything new you're going to have to pay for, or you're going to have to wait until a window happens that then puts the media on a streaming service. To give everybody everything right up front, as in the music industry they're doing with Spotify, just doesn't quite seem right to me. I'd be willing, if I understood the deal, I would be willing to pay, maybe it's $5, $6 a month, to get a back catalog of anything that's 6 months old or older. And then I can either make the decision to buy a new album, as I have done lately with Coldplay. I did it, I think, with Adele, and I did it with a couple others here or there. But with the understanding that if I want it right away, I'll buy it. And if I'm okay with waiting, I'll wait for that 6-month window, and then I can get it on Spotify. I think that uncertainty has to be figured out in the market, because if it's not, you're going to get kind of the worst of both worlds. You're going to be stuck in a limbo where you're not sure if you can pay for it, or you should pay for it, or if you should wait, and you're just kind of unsure. And all markets don't want uncertainty, that's for sure. What I did, because if I was going to do a video cast here about Taylor Swift, I should really get the album, and a lot of people have talked highly about it. I am not immune to getting a big pop star. There's a reason that she sells so many records. It's because her songs are very catchy. And so I looked around, I did my marketplace shopping, didn't like the deals I saw on iTunes, didn't like the deals I saw on Google Music, didn't love the deals I saw on Amazon for the digital album. Interestingly enough, Amazon had a deal where if you buy the physical CD, which was $9.99, you then get the MP3 album. So if you're going to pay for the MP3 album $13, that's silly when you could just pay the $9.99, get the physical album, and get the MP3 album right away. And then I'm a Prime member, or my mom is a Prime member, and I am a kind of a satellite Prime member off of her account. I can get that in 2 days. And so I get the album for $9.99, and I get the real album if I actually want to try to play a CD. Maybe that's the type of CD where I'll just leave in my car CD player, and on the times where I don't want to stream music, I will play it right through the disc. Why not? Better fidelity, I think. It's not pulling from any of your streaming data plans. And the other thing I did, which if you're a Prime member and you're in the market for this album, you should think about, you pay the $9.99, you get that MP3 album right away, and then I use Google Music, so I then quickly uploaded that into my Google Music library. But Amazon has a thing where if you are willing to, you obviously get your free 2-day shipping, but if you're willing to not have expedited shipping of any sort, they'll give you $1 credit towards an ebook purchase. So I already had the MP3 album. That's what I wanted. I don't care if this CD comes sooner or later or whatever. It can come on its own time. So I opted to then get that $1 credit for an ebook that I can put towards one that I want to buy. I would look at that really intently if you are a Prime user who wants to get this album. So you're paying about $3 less than you would just for the MP3 album, and then you're getting $1 back because you already had the MP3 album and you don't mind when the CD comes along. But it will be interesting to see how this plays out, because I myself am not sure how much I want to continue paying for a monthly service when, one, I'm not even listening to music all the time, and it's really, if you're paying for it, you should be listening to it all the time, I'm thinking. And two, I don't feel the value of the album as much when I'm paying this way. It's weird. I don't feel like I own it. I don't feel a kind of cherished sentiment towards it. It's very ephemeral. I can bring it into my playlist, and then it's there as long as I remember it. If I go a week without listening to music because I listen to podcasts or books on tape, which I do prefer when I'm driving, because when you're listening to a book on tape, it's a little more engrossing than listening to music, which is more of a passive activity. I don't have a lot of activities, because really with audio, you need to be doing something else at the same time. At least for me, it's very difficult to kind of sit there and just listen to something and not be, reading or working out or driving. And so what is that activity where I'm not listening to a podcast or an audiobook where I would be listening to music? I have to remind myself, and maybe if I'm working on something where I have to put a lot of brain power towards it, and it involves doing a lot of writing and kind of creative thinking, talking, spoken word type things like podcasts can get in the way of that. So maybe music's there, but there's very few use cases. And if I'm not going to get everything into that streaming service, if I'm not going to get all these albums when I'm already paying, for me it's $8.99, or $7.99 because I got in early on Google Music All Access, but in general it's $10. If I'm not getting those top albums, if I'm not getting everything when I'm paying for everything, this whole kind of house of cards could really fall down a lot. So I really do believe this industry, which has not yet got to profitability, even Spotify, when you have 40 million users and 10 million paid and you're not at profitability, that's a little scary. They've said they need to get to 120 users and 40 million paid, and then it'll all work out. But it's a big trust us kind of thing. I think we need to get to something right away where it's a 6-month window or maybe an 8-month window with few exclusives here or there. You get everything that's old in that streaming service, and if you want to buy it right away, you buy it and you move it into your library, or if you're willing to wait, you wait those 6 months and then you get it later. That really seems to be kind of the best system, at least in my mind, where it potentially works out for everybody. Because digital downloads are down. There was a 13 or 14% drop according to iTunes. Streaming is way up. It's up 28%, I think, year on year. Single downloads down 11%, album downloads down 14%. This according to the Wall Street Journal, and RIAA was the the outfit that provided the information. But that's really where we need to get with this, because someone like Taylor Swift can command this kind of power, and why shouldn't she? Spotify's trying to make her feel bad by writing things like, can you believe, to her fans that, they wrote a blog post basically kind of somewhat calling out Taylor Swift. She doesn't have to do that. If people are willing to pay for it, they'll pay for it. And she'll be better off for it, because then she'll feel value in her music. She penned an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal a couple months ago talking about that, art should not be free. And that's probably true. It shouldn't. When people put that much effort into it, that much mass appeal, and if people are willing to buy it, and by the way, her album, the Red Album, I read somewhere, 70% of those purchases were CDs. So people are still buying the actual content, the actual, hard product content. So very interesting there. We'll kind of see how it plays out as we go forward. A couple more bands doing this could really break the levees here, and it could kind of ruin the streaming service. And we'll be kind of in a little bit of a no man's land with what we're supposed to do as consumers, because digital downloads are going out, streaming's going up. But if streaming is not going to be a lucrative thing that makes money for people, then you're not sure that that's how it should work out. So consumers need a little certainty here. Someone needs to work this out, and we need to get to some kind of compromise that makes a lot of sense to everyone. So I thank you for listening. This was a little bit of a discussion on streaming music and Taylor Swift versus Spotify and streaming services. Over and out. Matt McQueenie of the Mix Minus Podcast.